The Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Thank you very much for joining us on another fantastic Friday's edition of Talk Today. And none other than himself, Mr. Roger Southam, joins us, and we're going to be talking about real estate. And when you finish, not only will you want to be a realtor, you understand the importance of the sector. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is reminding you.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email Talk Today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard. And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, welcome back, and thanks. And until 1:30, Mr. Roger Southam will be our guest, and then 1:30, the good folks over at CUC will join us. So looking forward to having much to discuss, not only on the air, but for over the weekend. Roger, how are you today,
I'm
man?
very well indeed, Sterling Dwayne. Always great to see you.
Good, man.
Feel the better for being here, actually.
You know, it's a great day. You know, we move through spaces, we encounter people who've had much on their plate and much sort of transpire in their lives in short order. But you can look in the mirror and be grateful as you endeavor to be gracious, but also appreciate that too much is given, much is required, and the importance of being in the gap.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's nice is having that cleansing rain come down, which is the first word that I've seen for a while, and boy, did it come down.
Well, I would joke and say maybe only for us over here, not for our friends in Savannah, but I could be wrong. No, I just kidding. It was, I'm not sure what time it was, but it was relatively early or late, depending on how you look at it. You know, I'm trying to get some stuff done, and it's reading. I go, what is that sound? It's so unfamiliar. And the sun wasn't up yet, and the clock was saying an odd hour, and I go, interesting.
Yeah.
It broke the silence, but in a hypnotic kind of way.
It's been refreshing, quite frankly.
Yeah. Awesome. And that is what I think when we look at the cleansing rains, not unlike, you know, the clarion call sometimes as the trumpet rains, that we find ourselves that we need to do something.
Well, I think it sort of reminds you that cleansing and cleaning and getting things refreshed is actually a good thing every now and then. And see, the speed it came down this morning was a true reminder. Although I wish I hadn't had the car washed 2 days ago. But
that's probably why it rained.
I think it is.
Yeah, you ever noticed that? And maybe it's a time to be not only introspective, but it's a time to look, you know, from a societal perspective. Yeah. Why do we do what we do?
Yeah.
You know, the pastor once told a joke as to why, you know, this lady was always cooking the ham in that way. And he said, why do you cut off the end? And she goes, well, I don't know. And she asks her mother, and she doesn't know because her mother did it, and her mother did it, her mother did it. Then they finally, you know, they discovered it couldn't fit in the pan.
Couldn't fit in the pan, absolutely.
Right? So I figure, you know what? Get a bigger pan.
Of such things, traditions are made.
Not always the greatest. But with that, as we talk about real estate sector and fees and approach, and there are many times things are said that are emotive, that are perhaps ill-conceived, and you speak from an ill-informed perspective, but nonetheless, it's almost accepted because it's never challenged. But when it's challenged, people always, there's an ulterior motive, or they want to accept the apple cart because, you know, sometimes it is true. The status quo only benefits those from whom the status quo benefits. Yeah. If I might, you and your colleagues were on the other day as the RICS conference was transpiring, and for many who attended, there was great discussion and great education information. Share with us, your experience and expertise both here and in the other markets, in particular in the UK, since we are, a British possession.
Yeah, with pleasure, Sterling Dwayne. So, the conference was fascinating and was well attended and well received. But the discussion during the market panel, there was a question put in anonymously that people thought it was my question, but honestly, it wasn't me doing it, although for mischief, I perhaps should have done, but I didn't, about the fees that Cerebra are charging and how the island is structured on fees. And this all emanates from what is going on in the US and has been going on for a little while now, where there is challenges and legal proceedings happening against firms and organizations and associations for the fixing of fees in the United States. So with that backdrop, the first thing I would say, because I'm a guest in this country, and if I'm here for 150 years, which unlikely, but if I am,
I will be. I'll look for you.
Well, I think I'll live forever or die trying. I'm always going to be a guest here because I wasn't born here. So, but I think it is incumbent on everyone who comes to the island to try and put something back and try and move things forward. Now, Cerebra's done a great job over the years, and I wouldn't knock Cerebra in any way, shape, or form, and that isn't where I come from on this. However, I do think it is right and proper that people have a choice in what they pay and how they pay and what they're doing. So with that said, you've got two very distinct systems of estate agency or real estate brokering that exist. You've got the US model, where you eat what you kill and you're very much a loner even within a firm. And you've got the English model, whereby you have a business that is promoting the business and everybody is part of a team. Now, it might be because I'm British and I understand that system better, but that feels more cohesive and more logical to me, that you work as a team and you sort of thrive and survive as a team. So that being said, with what we're doing with My Realtor is building an English estate agency where we all work together. Now, if someone can't do a viewing, they'll pass it to someone else and we'll share stuff around. The client's always the person who's brought it in. Never going to change that. We're not going to try and pinch them or anything like that. That's where it sits, that's where it's allocated. But then at the end of each quarter, we look at the pool and we sort of work bonuses from there. So the US model is more akin to, if I've got a client, someone in the firm stand as much chance of taking it off me as someone outside, and everybody's really fighting and kicking for the same thing. So that's the kind of long way round to say it is about giving choice. It is about offering opportunity, buyers having true representation, that if they came to My Realtor, we will act for the buyers in the best interest to get the price as low as possible as we can for them. Now, I was told that buyers agents didn't exist on the island or don't exist on the island, but that's certainly what we do. So the option and the opportunity is there for people. But moving on to kind of Cyro and bringing that into the mix, again, it's about giving people choice. It's about giving people opportunity, and the members in Cyro are all at one on wanting to give the best possible service at the most reasonable fee they can in the best way possible.
The Cayman landscape is quite unique in that we are, and just generalizing, speaking to a number of people in particular, as we booked this discussion weeks ago, might even feel like months somehow, in getting us to understand the changing face of Cayman. We're a British common law jurisdiction. We have Canadian banking system operating under U.S. laws, policies. Despite our laws are not a right word, seemingly a U.S. banking system, but Canadian banks in a British jurisdiction. In the real estate sector, if I'm listening to what you're sharing and making sure I understand it, Cerebra in Cayman and the National Association of Brokers in the U.S. are very similar.
Correct.
The legislation in the U.S. allows class action lawsuits. We seemingly in the British system don't have anything similar to that. And yet many of the firms here are affiliated with our U.S. franchises, for instance. We have some that are European-based and are marketed globally. Cayman, it says, sells themselves. The buyers just waiting.
Yeah.
The agents, the realtors just have to show up.
Yeah.
With that aside, though, if I may then ask, seeing those differences with our landscape and with, as we talk about, you call it CIRO,
Yeah.
Cayman Islands Realtors Organization.
Correct.
A buyer's agent, as you are, you would have to have something for sale for the buyer to buy.
Yeah.
So are you advocating that there'll be a buyer's system and a seller's system so the two interact, or is it how would that work?
Yeah. So in the UK, the buyer's agent would get a fee from the buyer, and the seller's agent gets the fee from the seller.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't this sort of joint fee that's grown up in the States and replicated
Mm-hmm.
down here. Now, I'm not trying to change
No.
anything of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it just demonstrates the sort of fundamental difference of who's paying and who is sort of in control of which
Right.
party. Now, the interesting bit, and this is a slight aside, but I'll just throw it into the mix,
Mm-hmm.
because the fees are coming from the seller, but actually it's coming out of the purchase price, so the buyer's effectively paying it as part of the purchase price. He's effectively, and then pays stamp duty based on this purchase price. He's effectively paying stamp duty on the fees.
Kind of like the CIF when you're importing goods. in a
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely.
Okay.
So you're getting, so there's that element to it that perhaps there should be everybody sit around a table and we should be starting to review for the benefit of everybody. But that's going a bit
Because that's the inflationary tendencies as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to.
But that's a bit more radical than I was originally thinking. But yeah, go
No,
on.
but this is where anything and everything is impacted.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to ask, and I'm really grateful that you come aboard, because through you, more people might see that there's access to the real estate sector.
Yeah.
They might understand how to get there and the professional sort of acumen they should have and the like. They may also realize how lucrative it is.
Yeah.
There might be some concerns as some of, and I'll put it here now, and you can decide if you want to revisit it. Realtors operate on commission. I'm told by someone, and I just had a call just to confirm, our work permit system says, or said, because there was some uncertainty as if it still does, that you cannot be employed on the work permit on commission only.
Yeah.
Now, one real estate transaction could be more than most people will make in years,
Yeah.
but it may take a month or a year longer to make that. Should that system be looked at? Those are other sort of policies
Yeah.
that could be.
Well, to answer your first bit, the work permit does still have on it that you have to have a salary on there.
Right.
So you can't not have a salary. But from my own perspective, I'm very much Kamanian first in terms of employment.
Yeah.
Now, we have, well, I'm obviously on a work permit, and a couple of my team are on work permits, and they're on salary, and we work it that. So with the English estate agency model, it is about paying someone for what they're doing and then topping up with commission. So we don't charge desk fees, we don't take marketing fees or anything like that. That's wrapped into how we structure. So I think people should have some form of basic wage and then a top up on fees from there.
Right.
Now, it's obviously down to affordability and how established a business is and what you can actually maintain for that. And it's making sure that everyone is in the same direction and rowing the boat in the same line, so that you don't have someone sitting back and going, oh, that's fine, I'll just earn off everybody else. Now, that is easy to differentiate, because in a discretionary pool of bonus, then you can obviously differentiate those who are putting in effort, those who aren't, and you can make that work in every way possible. But I think from the lucrative point of view, yes, real estate can be, the real estate industry can be lucrative, but it is worth understanding and appreciating the nuances and the elements to it, because it is also very easy to not get it right and to mess up on things. Now, at the moment, we don't have a Property Misdescriptions Act in Cayman either, and so there's a whole number of things that could come in that could make the market neater.
Yeah.
We could be looking at Caymanians as a first line for coming into the profession, which I think would be a good thing. And one of the elements with CIRO is looking at English qualification that is internationally recognised, that would mean the Caymanians can have an international qualification that gives them a passport to expand their horizons beyond Cayman potentially, but it gives the best of both worlds, because the one thing that is certain, as technology grows, the world is shrinking at a rapid pace.
You see, that's where those qualifications give our children, but our people, an ability to move globally if they so choose, to be seconded, to relocate. When we come back, it's not unlike the chartered accountant or an engineer or the educator. You may have to get acclimated and maybe certified in that particular jurisdiction, but you bring a skill set. The mechanic who has a German certification, for instance, is going to be a mechanic no matter what.
Just for one of the reasons it's taken us slightly longer to do the qualification has been the discussion about getting the international element as part of what we're doing here. So that is fascinating.
I want to ask you about that, but also speak more so that we understand it. Phone lines are open if you want to call, and anybody who has something to say, we'll take it as constructive, even if they mean critical. Stay tuned.
It's always constructive.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Hey there, K-Man. Have a few minutes to spare? Your Ministry for Housing has just launched the public survey for the Cayman Islands Housing Policy and Strategic Plan. We are all about making our island home even better. We need your help. It's your thoughts and ideas that will shape our housing policies for the future. Your voice matters, and it's easy to get involved. Just visit cihousingplan.org and let your voice be heard. Plus, you could catch some cool gift cards just for sharing your ideas. Don't miss out. Open through April 16th. Head to cihousingplan.org or go to the Ministry's Facebook, Instagram, X, or LinkedIn now and be a part of the conversation. Your input matters more than you know. Let's make Cayman's housing future brighter. Together, your voice, your future. Take the survey today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks to all of our guests. But today, Roger Southam, sometimes our discussions may cause people to actually look at something and realize that they have assumed so much. They may look at something and go, see, that's what I thought, and didn't realize how insightful, but also how in depth sometimes their thoughts are. With respect to the real estate sector, it would appear that, again, in the Cayman context, we operate in some way. I want to use a phrase, and I want to get your guidance. It would seem that there's a perception, and as you shared, I'll infer, you didn't say this, but I'll infer, in the Cayman context, within just say Cerebra, according to statistics, they're probably close to 70-80% of the market, quote unquote, like the US system. It's a cutthroat business.
Yeah.
And there are allegations of it being a closed shop, which may be born from the court case that called it a cartel. Now, this is a Cayman Islands Court of Appeal decision to refer to it as a cartel. Now, I'm not trying to be disparaging, even when I make a factual statement.
Yeah.
But that would be, if someone calls someone something that isn't positive, it must be a negative comment, right?
Well, I guess so. I wasn't here when that happened, and I think it's a question of how you behave and how you operate. As I said at the start of our discussion, I think Cerebra's done a good job, and a lot of my friends are members of Cerebra, in Cerebra, and it's kind of there. I do think there is a period of evolution that should come about. And one of the interesting things has been seeing the advertising from Cerebra since we've launched Cyro, and the positive messages coming out. And I think that's a good thing, that we have complementary associations, that we have organizations that are all there trying to help the market and improve the standards and improve the delivery. But I think we were just talking off air then about sort of ethics and standards, and I think that's what it comes down to. Now, when I started in real estate in 1978, that's a damn long time ago, isn't it?
Only if you're 3 years old.
Only if you're a dinosaur like me. But in 1978, I was directed towards estate agency. I was going to leave school at 16 and start working, and then someone said it'd be easier to do A-levels, and then someone said it'd be easier to go and do a degree to get qualified, and I got led into a road that I have no regrets about at all, but was so different to what I was actually starting out doing at 16 to by the time I was 22 when I came out of Polytechnic, as they were then, with a degree and a passport into becoming a chartered surveyor. And the sort of divergence of that is for me just sort of exemplifies, if you happen to have a right conversation with someone, how it can steer you in a direction to not having a conversation that would take you in a completely different path. So I think that's a long way round to say there should be some evolution happening in the marketplace. I sense there's some evolution happening, and if we can keep this trend going, then I think Cayman's in for great stuff.
And this is where, looking at Cayman, its history, its economic sort of play, in that presumably to this date, a significant percentage of our visitors come from the U.S. in particular. A lot of our commerce is with the U.S. It would appear that historically, from the 1800s and prior, on a catboat, we were not only trading with the Nordic countries, and there were a sense of independence economically, but also politically. And they had what would be akin to an ambassador here. We traded with the New England coast. So there is that independence and that connection. A lot of us went to the U.S. for medical, as we still do. We got excellent facilities here. We went there for education as well, for vacation, unlike a lot of the other Caribbean. Why I say that is that we said, the U.S. sneezes, Cayman catches a cold. A long way to ask. With this recent ruling, despite the potential for an appeal, we're talking, $1 billion industry in commissions from, do you see that now forcing us to adjust, as you said, you've seen some?
What's interesting in the U.S. Has been the firms who are trying to take precipitative action and avoid litigation or remove themselves or get themselves put to one side by actually doing something about the fees at that moment in time. Now, it's kind of, if you've hit the iceberg and your ship's going down, it's a bit late to go, I wasn't meant to be on this boat, I'm going to try and get on another one. But I think from the Caymanian perspective, I think it's about evolution and not revolution. I think it is about getting the market working openly and transparently in the way that is good for everybody. There's a number of transactions that we've been involved with where Chiara, who I've had the pleasure of working with now for quite a while, she's an absolute superstar. And she'll go, right, we got this. And I go, well, we can do this, this, and this. Oh, can we? And it's understanding the depth of the legal side, it's understanding the depth of the property side, it's understanding construction, it's understanding every facet of what you're doing to be able to be fleet of foot to deliver the best possible service you can for your client.
Right. As I listen to you, a couple of things come to mind, and I'm hoping, as I always endeavor, is that whatever we're talking about here, that someone listening will say, that could be a career, and this is a path to it. And I think the real estate sector, if he would allow me, because he said it many times on air, just sitting where you are, it might even be the same chair. Let's see, he marked it. Mr. Mario Rankin has shared that in school, he wasn't told about the real estate sector and how lucrative it can be. He knew about construction. He could be, working in laying blocks and working in that sector, but selling real estate. And I'll come back to that in a second, in that we talk about this fine, according to media reports in the U.S., credible media sources, unlike the CNNs and SK. We're talking close to $1.8 billion fine, presumably. But there were also mention of some of the larger real estate firms over there with franchises here who decided we're not going to be part of this. They've settled, again, according to their media reports, out of court for reportedly large sums of money to avoid, just as what you shared. So we are asked to be proactive and not reactive. In this case, we have to react. Is this going to be driven by government, by us, the consumer, by independent-minded, ethical, people who want to serve the industry?
Well, logically, it will come from the consumer, because once the consumer realizes they have choice and that professional goes right the way across the marketplace from Cereba to Ciro, RICS, etc., and that awareness sits there, then people are very clear about the choice they've got. And choice is a great driver of change, great driver of evolution. And I think that is where it will emanate from. I think that for government to step in to something they haven't really been involved with in any way, shape or form would not necessarily help the situation. I think if they wanted, they've got the housing survey out at the moment, haven't they? And that's interesting, having just gone through it, kind of how they're steering questions and what they're looking for in terms of people's reactions on the questions. And if the government wanted to be involved, then it would be down misdescriptions, landlord and tenant legislation that I would be advocating, and affordable housing. And those are three key areas that need potentially addressing. I think the market will take care of itself in terms of the consumer having choice and knowing what they're able to buy into. And I think then the marketplace will settle down and work together and deliver the best possible service for the clients.
You mentioned a number of, but for some, they recognize the corresponding legislation in the UK. In the US, they talk about antitrust, anti-competitive. The UK, there's a UK Competitions Act. Would that have to come into play in our industry?
It doesn't need to, because the market can sort itself out without having anything drive it to do that. But I'm always a fan of, I'm a libertarian rather than heavy-handed.
I'm an Ebanks, but anyway, you're a libertarian.
So I think small government is always better than having big government.
Right.
And I think because the moment you try and encapsulate something into legislation, something else pops out or something else happens, and I love lawyers, and I don't mean this rudely in any way, shape, or form. But
sure?
all you do, honestly. But all you do is create a fee income for the lawyers, who can then have an ability to argue against what's been written in the legislation. So the narrower and the wider and the smaller you can actually make it, the better that has to be.
Okay. So as we go to the break, anti-competition legislation or antitrust and consumer protection, are they synonymous?
That's a great question.
You want to mull it over?
Yeah, let me mull that. We'll do that after the break.
Hey, you see what happens on a Friday? Imagine if I slept.
That's got the grey cells going.
Join us. Roger Southam will continue until 1:30.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Message us at 925-3261 on WhatsApp today and get active with Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Roger Southam. I call you Mister, right?
You can call me Roger. There's no Mister, my friend. Thinking about your question pre-break,
yeah.
I think the answer is probably yes, but there's a lot more in consumer protection in terms of, if you think about disability acts and elements like that, which could be described as consumer protection, and how far the world has come in looking after disability, whatever that disability is. Would that have happened any other way than from, in inverted commas, that as a public protection or consumer protection? I think the answer is no. So the sort of consumer protection side, the what you can give in terms of the hand holding on that side, I suspect is far greater. So that's where I'd differentiate it rather than anything else.
And this is where I think increasingly, I'm not saying that there isn't another jurisdiction that is as good or any better. But in the Cayman context, the people that we have here, whether they go back generations or they've only landed a few minutes ago, the expertise, the experience that they bring. Yesterday, for instance, just as an example, we had 4 of the school counselors from CIS on, and their experience collectively in years of teaching, their qualifications, but where they've lived, that can only benefit their students and this country. And so if we were to leverage that, reach out, harness that, we can find that there's a pool of knowledge here that can improve, and it's what makes us unique. Now, I share that and then ask, when we look at the Cayman landscape and we look at Cereba, there have been many allegations when associations, just generally, whether it's a law association, another professional association like accounting or the like, where and the medical profession, I think, is one that's been used as an example countless times in the many jurisdictions. You can't call yourself a lawyer or a doctor unless you've had these prescribed qualifications. If you do so, it's an offense, and a criminal offense, and you got to be licensed, and the licensing body is the association itself. Now you might say, well, for a doctor that makes good sense, because you just can't be a doctor and then operating on people. But other associations, whether it's marketing or realtors, if it acts as a closed shop and denies entry, could that possibly? I mean, what's your view?
Well, Cereba have qualification, but it's only recognised on Cayman. So they have a qualification which is laudable and done. For the RICS, you cannot call yourself a chartered surveyor unless you have gone through the training and the disciplines of the profession of the RICS, and you've passed all their requirements. Now, what we're planning with CSIRO is that Property Mark, which is out of the UK, National Association of Estate Agents, will be the governing body for our qualification and will provide the training, the services, the disciplines. So what we will have is an international qualification with a Cayman module. So for people partaking in that, they will have an international passport in real estate.
Right.
Now, the challenge, I think it's not so much about the qualifications as about people's perceptions.
Yeah.
And I've thought about this long and hard over the years, because estate agents, until bankers messed up so badly in 2008, estate agents were always the bottom of the barrel in any country, in anybody's lifestyle. And I've been the butt of many jokes over the years in many countries.
Yeah.
But thank goodness the bankers messed up in 2008. Anyway, I think the difference is how visible something is and how easy it is for someone to think they know or they understand. So to take the medical profession as an example, no one in their right mind is going to turn up in a hospital, grab a scalpel and think they can make an incision and start carving someone up to remove an appendix. Let's take a simple example. Whereas I've never been anywhere where someone hasn't told me how easy it is to be an estate agent, how easy it is to sell property, how easy it is to deal with the document, whatever. And that's the perception and the difference. I think because everybody lives in a house, they think they understand property and therefore decry any training, professionalism or anything else. And as I say, it's that I think that is a juxtaposition for people. And I think what the sort of respect that the medical profession gets just doesn't exist in other arenas because people think they can.
But is it then that, and I mean, to your point with the bankers, they messed up so bad that the U.S. government had to put on what they call a TARP.
Every government had to.
And that's what they called it. I mean, you go back and check the acronym.
Yeah.
It was so bad they wanted to hide it. They actually called their, their relief program a TARP.
Yeah.
I kid you not. But anyway, that was in
the UK was quantitative easing, which was such a mouthful. Everybody thought, "What the heck are you talking about?"
But quantitative easing, I mean, when you look at economics, that's what they do, right? Yeah. But again, the UK has a different parlance here.
Yeah.
But with that, though, and back to the realtors, the Cayman marketplace, our laws, our land registry system, that is phenomenal.
Oh.
From every aspect, from anyone when compared globally, we have a fantastic land registry system with legislation.
I would actually rate the Cayman land registry system above the UK land registry system.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I've heard that, and this is not sort of saying something out of school or that is inaccurate, but we don't even champion that. Now, the realtors in Cerribo who shared with me, they've shared that compared to other jurisdictions where they've worked, whether it was Canada or the US, for instance, and they come to Cayman, they're amazed at, one, how easy and accessible the system is, and two, the lawyers that are there who do it, they do the heavy lifting. They provide all the standard contracts. The realtors do to me, the hard part, because they do the people management. Yeah. They bring in the parties together. Yeah. But the system actually just works almost seamlessly. Yeah. Now, having said that, I've had people, not just Caymanians, but primarily, who have alleged that they found it difficult not to pass the test, but to get access to an admission in Cerribo for different reasons, and then working. Well, is that a fair allegation?
Well, I think it's not so much necessarily they can't get into Cerribo as much as understanding how to get into property or get involved in real estate. I think is one of those, as I say, mystique. I think mystique might be the right word, where unless you know someone in the real estate industry, it is a very opaque marketplace for outside people to look at and think, how do I start in that? Now, in any country that I've worked in a lot of different countries, in any country, it is about who you know and the marketplace and your Rolodex of contacts and how much you can build up on that. And there was a lovely guy who was Clive Lewis, who was president of the RICS in the early 90s. But he came to my polytechnic while I was at college, which was the first time I ever met him. And he sat on the edge of a table and he was swinging his legs away. And he said, if you're an extrovert and know nothing, or an introvert and know everything, you'll get on in this industry. If you're an introvert and know nothing, walk out the room now. And it's such an apt summary because it is about knowing people and knowing the subject. And you can get away with being outgoing and building a Rolodex on business development, and you can get away with knowing everything about the transactions, the structure, the legal entities, etc., and everything in between. So if you're a mix between the two. But it's a shame. I think there should be more awareness and there should be more out there to help the Caymanians to understand and give them a route in.
Okay. So when we come back from our news break, and I appreciate you spending until 1:30. To our listeners, we're expecting possibly the CEO or the VP over at one of them over at CUC to join us at 1:30. That will be an interesting discussion. No calls. We'll just listen to them. But stay tuned and join us as we come back. Roger will continue.
Thank you.
Yesterday,
Today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
With a look at your latest headlines, I'm Dwayne Ebanks. Police are investigating the death of a 72-year-old man who died Wednesday while off the water in West Bay. Police say that EMS and fire attended the scene and conducted CPR. It was reported that while snorkeling, the man experienced distress. He was assisted back to shore by members of the public until help arrived. The man succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead on arriving at the hospital. In regional news, Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday held talks with the visiting Suriname President Santokhi, underscoring the long history of friendship between the Asian country and the Dutch-speaking Caribbean community country. According to the official China news agency, President Xi said Suriname was one of the first Caribbean countries to establish diplomatic ties with China, establishing a strategic partnership with China and signed the Belt and Broad Cooperation Plan with China. He said the two countries have always respected each other and treated each other as equals, becoming a model of South-South cooperation, and that Beijing is willing to work with Suriname to further consolidate political mutual trust, strengthen economic and trade cooperation, expand cultural and people-to-people exchanges, as well as step up international coordination. In Nassau, a new survey has found that a significant number of women in the Bahamas suffered physical or sexual violence during their lifetime and have challenges accessing healthcare, law enforcement, and social services. Lead consultant Itoli Pinder told a news conference that 1 in 4 women reported that they either received physical violence or sexual violence within their lifetime. That's a look at your latest headlines. I'm Jevy Ebanks.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
The Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
Born September 25, 1947, at Watering Place, Cayman Brac, Royce Adolphus Dilbert was the firstborn son to Helen and Grace Dilbert, née Tibbets. Mr. Dilbert was a hard-working man who spent numerous years at sea, as well as employing his diverse skill sets on land. In 1979, he would marry Yvette Jackson and took employment with Cayman Brac Power and Light Company in 1981 as chief engineer, where he remained until his retirement in December of 2018. Heavily influenced by his wife, in 1982 he gave his heart to the Lord and joined her at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he later served as interim pastor in 2002 to 2007, becoming pastor in 2017. Mr. Dilbert was a charter member of the Rotary Club of Cayman Brac, served as PTA president at Creek Primary School, worked with the youth in the community, president of the Veterans and Seamen Society, and was a member of the Development and Control Board Cayman Brac until his passing. Royce was a devoted father to 7 children, loved to fish, and had a passion for cars.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Roger Southam as we talk about the real estate sector. And it's not so much, a beating up on anybody, but it's an admission sometimes of things, an acknowledgement, but also an invitation for people to, if you put in the work, if you do the right thing. But I think as I listen to you also, we're seeing how the Cayman, the real estate sector, but its industries are so much alike the U.S. I don't think I was wrong in the analogy in saying British Commonwealth jurisdiction for banking, with Canadian banks primarily, but a U.S. sort of banking approach, right? And that's not because of the SWIFT system alone. That's the way things are done here. People might have a reason why that is, but we won't talk about the post-war era. You never know. With that in mind.
That'll be 1:30 in the morning.
CIRO, right? The Cayman Realtors Organization. Tell us about that.
Right. So when we formed that, it was getting together like-minded agents who weren't members of Sariba, although if any of the members of Sariba want to join us, they're more than welcome, to create an MLS, to create a body where there would be nothing controlling apart from ethics and standards and wanting to do the best we could for the clients. So the mission is about having freedom to choose to charge what fees you want to charge, having freedom to use what contracts and paperwork and structure it properly, and operate almost like King Arthur's Round Table. So all the members have a seat at the board. all the members sit equally, and it is collective decision, it's collective brain power and collective choice. So the website we've created for CSIRO is very, very easy and intuitive to use. It's based on a map of Cayman and Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, and you click in and drill down on the properties that are listed on there, which is just on the land registry, which is the thing I love about the land registry, the fact it's on the map.
It's on the map.
It's so, the UK, you don't even get close to a map.
But even if you found something in the UK, there's so much other things.
The land registry in the UK is horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to CSIRO. So, so that was the foundation of creating something that would give an identity, give a listing service. Now, we will take listings from everybody on the island. We will let everybody join and put their listings on with us, and it's about creating, because an MLS should be accessible for everybody.
But on the Cerebra one, it's
only Cerebra people can access it. Yes.
You can see their website, what's listed, but
you've got no mechanism for others to post on. With ours, you can just join, and the fees are $250 a year per firm. So we're not doing it as any form of money maker or anything like that. It is all about altruism. It is all about giving back to Cayman. It is all about the collective good.
Right. But this is maybe hopefully an open invitation against the Cerebral. We haven't done it in a long time. We did it with the Bankers Association, and for the record, we got sort of frustrated they were not willing to come on to talk about the banking sector. Maybe now we'll see it. And there's been a lot. Yeah. But with what you're looking, is this a complementary or competing MLS?
It's I see it as complementary, but I come from everything I do and everything I'm about is about complementary and complementing skills and services. So I think there's room in the marketplace for anybody and everybody because you make your choice of how you want to operate. And you stand by what you do, and I don't think it's a question of one being right, one being wrong. It's just different, and that's how the markets operate.
So let me then ask, as a consumer, a buyer is looking for property. There is the Cerebra MLS, then there's the CSIRO MLS system. There are what used to be the print media. They'll have their classified ads that was online. You would then go to these respective places and look. But how is that then different when CSIRO comes on board? Will it be primarily for the vendor being able to access and list, for the estate agent and for the realtor?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. So the buyers can use a very easy to navigate website. That's probably the easiest site I think I've ever seen for estate agency broking. The vendors obviously get access through their member organizations who list through it. And then for the buyers, they either come to an agent to retain them and use them. So I've got a great example. I had an email from a chap last Saturday that was a spec email sent in through our website inquiry form. Wrote back to him, said yes, we'd happily help you. Here's our listing agreement for acting as a buyer's agent. He signed up. We've put an offer to purchase in on a property for him. What are we in? 5 days. And he could have done all that, but people generally don't want to do the legwork of trawling around all the sites, trawling around all the various elements and having to search for themselves. He had a specialist requirement, and as I say, we've got an offer gone in today. So it's about real estate more than anything else is about service. It really is about service, and I think that's true of all disciplines under charter surveying and everything else. The property industry is about service.
And this is it. I mean, almost inclined, but I want to embarrass the fellow. If I can borrow you with the chop, at one of the quantity surveying firms, I reached out to someone who said, "Oh, I don't dare no more talk to this guy," and he responded immediately. That is the professionalism that exists here.
Yeah,
it's something that I think that we don't champion, we don't celebrate, and we don't promote, just like a land registry system. Now, with that in mind, again, looking at Cyro and Cereba, you want to make sure I understood Cereba's qualification or entry or licensing or whatever, it's just locally based. What you're proposing is something that has an international recognition. And just take two prospective applicants. The fellow in high school and the individual who is maybe doing something else. Now, we know in the UK, solicitors can get into real estate, not just as conveyancers and the like, but those two individuals. First, the student in school who's thinking of a career in the real estate sector. How long would it take? What would they go through? What would that qualification, that timing, and that career path look like?
So for the student, you're going to be probably, it depends how quickly you want to work through the modules, but you're probably going to need something in the order of 3 to 6 months to qualify. If you want to go down the chartered surveying route, you're going to be getting a degree is by far the easiest way to get qualified. So you're about 5 years to get qualified. I haven't done the Cereba test, so I don't know what that is. I hear it's a multiple choice, and I hear it's a kind of an hour test or something like that. I don't know. But with Property Mark and the UK, that is in modules, and it's online learning, and it is working your way through to actually deliver. But you need some training, you need understanding. So that's where the 3 to 6 months is going to come in for getting that qualification.
And for that individual, whether there's a qualification or not, but let's say the person who has another qualification, law, accounting, or finance, or whatever, and that person now wants to get in. Is it the same thing to become?
Yeah, I mean the route to get into real estate. The first thing you need to understand is how many different arenas in real estate there actually are, and then picking which, because to be a quantity surveyor is a very, very different role to being an estate agent, to being a property manager, to being a hydrographic surveyor, to being so you've got very different disciplines. But let's stick with the real estate broking aspects at the moment. You need to be approaching the firms to start discussions and start engagement on are there possible internships, or are there possible openings that would let them train and build up their awareness, and delivering that as a sort of opening. Now, with how we're structured at My Realtor, we were taking in people and offering that form of assistance training, etc. We've sort of closed the doors a bit because, unfortunately, we had a couple of bad experiences that weren't great, and we put a lot of time in and didn't get the feedback that we should have done. So we will review that again, and we will open our doors, and I'm always happy to speak to anybody that's got any form of interest in real estate, to encourage it, to nurture it, to try and help them and find routes and avenues. So that's the better way to start off, and having discussion and having engagement to understand more about what is on offer.
Okay, we have our listeners asking if you could reference the Sarah website again, and how cirealtors.org. cirealtors.org. All right, well, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think this is where a lot of people are seeing what we can do if we understand, how we to do it, what we're to do, and have that champion guiding you, not unlike the mentor who's...
I mean, the other thing I would throw out quite happily, if any of the schools want someone to come in and talk to the students about real estate and talk about the marketplace, I'm always happy to. I know Chiara gets asked to go and do a number of talks in various...
I think it's that affable personality, man. She has that winning smile.
Oh, she's just great. She's just on every level.
There's a mutual friend who champions her, and I think we see in others, our younger selves, we see people.
Well, she's like my third daughter, and I'm sure. Thank goodness my other two are in the UK because they would kick me. But from when she's so enthusiastic and so committed to wanting to do well in everything she does.
Mm-hmm.
So committed.
And I think she'll serve as an inspiration. And it is where I think these discussions may cause parents, particularly.
Yeah.
We don't recognize sometimes that we as the adult, the teacher and the parent in particular, the things that our children are saying. I saw something again recently. One, it says, the child doesn't embarrass you. The child just repeats something you shouldn't have said in the first place. Right?
Isn't that the truth?
And that's the thing. And how we do that. Now, we reference real estate agents or realtors and then estate agents.
Yeah.
Are the two terms synonymous?
Yes, they are. So an estate agent is the same as a real estate broker.
Estate agent is the UK.
The estate agent is the UK term. Yeah. But it just sounds a bit cuddlier.
Is it? Oh, no, man. I mean, your company is my realtor, not my estate agent.
Well, no, see, I've just turned into a hybrid of everything in terms of embracing America, UK, Cayman, everything.
But that's why I share that, because I don't think that people, Caymanians, get it, right? We live in a space where it's, I've said this, we are in the Caribbean, but not necessarily of the Caribbean. Our history, our heritage, our politics, our economics, and much of our socializing is a strong American influence because our seafarers were in the Gulf ports. But in our schools, words are spelled with or without the U, color and humor and the like, phrases and terminology and the like. Now, there is, unfortunately, and I say this because I have great respect for what once was a great nation, but it's managed to screw up its politics with electing some, I don't know what we would call them, but I'm not just talking about the UK.
Oh man, I tell you, the UK at the moment, I have no idea what direction they think they're going.
I don't think they do.
Oh goodness!
But it's a great seafaring nation as well. There's a fine gentleman from Northside who tells a story. As a young chap, that's his word. World War II starting, he pays his passage, and Mr. Ebanks, makes his way across, and he joins, the Royal Marines, and he's seen service. And when you listen to that level of commitment for love and country, it makes you at this age understand the importance of service.
And the other thing that brings to my mind off the back of that is the love that the Commonwealth and the overseas territories has for the UK, and then how badly they can be treated by the UK. So if you look at some of the documentaries on the black people who volunteered into the army and how they were treated during the Second World War and elsewhere, you just think, this is just abhorrent.
But I'm glad that you acknowledge that. And this isn't as much as the argument may be inflammatory for others. It's not about reparations. It's about acknowledging the history. But the French did the same.
Oh, the Western history is just mind-blowingly ignorant.
And this is why I'll be mindful, because I can easily see where some people will take it out of context. Why I'm so passionate about this country, why I love it so dearly, why when I look at people that I get to meet for the first time who may have been here for a short time or for a long time, or people who have been here forever, I say this to people as an acknowledgement of what we have here. Consciously, I have not been off island, out of the Cayman Islands, in almost 5 years.
Wow.
Right? And there are people who would say, wow, aren't you still crazy? No. What it has done, it has cemented the love, the value, the recognition of what this place is. Think about the money that the people have spent just to come here to vacation. That's wasted money from their perspective. There's the mental wellness and the like. But you go to a meal, it's not the food that you're going for, it's the fellowship.
Yes, absolutely.
They've come here. Look at the money that has been made in developments, from condos, hotels to others, right? And if you listen and interact with these people, from a walk in dikes to just stopping for a second and listening to the birds, to seeing Cayman parrots that you haven't seen, the bald pate and the like, That's Cayman.
Absolutely.
And we allow it to be disrespected.
I'm coming up 6 years being here now, and there's not one moment I regret. I think COVID was actually good in some ways, because getting to spend a lot of time on the island and a lot more open roads in terms of not having the tourists on made me fully appreciate what the island has and what it has to offer. I've done the longest stint outside of COVID from travelling. I've now got some travelling to do because of some consulting in the UK, but I'd be quite happy if I wasn't travelling. But I just love it here.
This is it, right? And it's, I say that to say to people that there are opportunities here that we hear about, the big fish in a small pond. Our friends who are the new terms of creatives, right? No matter where they come from, some of them couldn't find the art gallery, would not even be able to get permission to put up a flyer in some of those places that they were born and raised in. But here they can have a national exhibition. That's not to discredit them. That's to show that the opportunities. To the fellow, I reached out to him the other day, and he reminds me the financial success that he has. He came here, he worked in the hospitality sector, and now the financial wealth, but the greater wealth that he has, it's because of Cayman. Right? And that's not to say it's not possible elsewhere, but it needs to be a reawakening and a realigning of what we have here.
And I think there's an element of wealth in just the climate, the beauty, the nature, the wildlife, just what is. I don't think it's a monetary thing. No. It's just, I think also there's a spiritual element to the island, which I love.
Oh, that, my friend, is something that I distinguish between spiritual and religious, right? But look at the nature, and this is why I think when people say the island sells itself, we have birds here that exist nowhere else, and yet many of us don't know. Now, I can't recall the names because they don't sound like what I grew up hearing, but they exist. Flowers, other animals. Why are we not?
I would agree with all of that, apart from the nice little black and white ones with the very long thin legs, which I thought were beautiful birds and very calm, until a couple of years ago they started dive bombing me on the golf course. As I'm walking down the middle of the fairway, I wasn't even close to where their nests were, and then I changed my mind on those. But apart from those, we're good.
Everybody, even the mother hen is protective.
Oh, that's for sure, isn't it?
Right? And that's the way it is. You ever been swimming, and the smallest of fish will come in at you.
Come straight at you.
Because, hey, you're coming into their territory, right? It's just the way it is. But I say that to ask us, how much are we trying to instruct and instill in our children the opportunities that exist? How many of us who've made it are now reaching out to offer up not just counsel and guidance, but a genuine helping hand?
Well, I think there's one of the aspects that I think worry is the right word. I worry about is the perceptions of what careers, industries, and professions parents are guiding their children towards, and what they're guiding them away from, and what they perceive as responsible and good and something fit and proper for their children. And the US embraces the service industry in a way like no other country. The UK didn't, but is getting better at it. Now, I sense that Cayman is somewhere between the two stools, and it could go either way in terms of any day of the week it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. But service industry, to be a great waiter or a great chef is a skill and a half. And it's something to aspire to.
I actually challenge what you said. Again, just looking at human history, right? We had the agrarian, the industrial, and then this information age. According to others would say there's a fourth. But for me, Cayman has always been a service-based economy. We embrace the service sector. I think a couple of things have happened. Somehow, somewhere, someone heard something that caused them to, my view, improperly interpret that service and servitude were synonymous. They're not. And again, whatever the reason, we have allowed our people to believe that if you're working in the hospitality sector, you're a waiter, or you're doing something like that, that you're less than and you can't make any money. A challenge to the banks. And if this is inaccurate, not only will I forever apologize, but they can chastise me publicly. But I know I'm correct. We would tell the Caymanian worker who is a widow, for instance. Listen, your salary is primarily gratuity based. We cannot account that into your income when it comes to qualifying for.
Yeah.
We call it a mortgage.
Yeah.
I got condemned saying it's a loan. It's not a mortgage. Right?
They are more loans than mortgages.
They are demand loans. I say that now because I know I'm accurate.
Yeah.
People are now saying it. It's not to be right. It's to recognize that we've allowed things to be repeated, never to be corrected, and not to be held accountable. And when people see that, they will go, well, there's no future here.
Yeah.
And then worse, we look at it increasingly in a way that we don't see the great value. The thing that attracted people to our shores as visitors and as investors has been the hospitality, the kindness, the friendliness, the safety, the seeing things that have been under threat. And if all of us, and this is a political statement, well, sign me up for the next election, right? If all of us who are here do not recognize how fragile it is, how quickly it's being eroded, our personal safety and security is at stake. The thing that's happening within Cereba as a result of the class action lawsuit and the $2 billion fine thereabouts in the U.S. is just an understanding and an opportunity to take corrective measure here.
Yes, I think that's absolutely valid, and I'd vote for you like a shot, Sterling Dwayne.
Can you vote too? Thanks.
But the understanding of what careers are right for people.
Yeah.
One of the things that always struck me as odd in the UK was when they started a move to get every child to head towards university, because they would get better careers. Education and structured education, and certainly tertiary education, is not for everybody. And to portray or try and sway that's a direction people should go is so unfair on children who are not that way inclined, because it makes them feel inferior as a direct result of it.
Right.
So armed from there to... You can't have all chiefs. You can't have everybody as leaders. You can't have... So you've got to make sure that we're getting the children shown and given opportunity that is right and appropriate, and not to belittle or decry any career.
If I might, because it's something that I... Just earlier today with a friend who, like me, has a strong passion for education, but like many of our friends who are educators, I struggle trying to align the words. And you shared at the outset, now as you did previously, your pathway to this sector, came in a very interesting way because someone directed you. I say that to share that we're talking in the Cayman context about TVET, where we look at technical and vocational training as this thing that is less than, when, in my view, the individual, right, the lady who can look at a car engine and pull that apart and rebuild that better, that's a skill set and an intellect, right, that surpasses many. Not unlike the surgeon, who can look at your body and say, okay, we tweak your valves and realign this plumbing here and whichever, right? But for some reason here, we don't see how much money can be made in those sectors, and we don't see it. I say that to just ask. Tertiary education for me is ending after you finish high school. For many of us, we see it as, you have to go to the formal university and get your bachelor's. Yet, if you're doing something in plumbing, electrical, auto mechanics, real estate, anything else, that is learning, that is lifelong, that is learning that gives you a skill set and an opportunity to make mega bucks. But we don't embrace it, man.
No, and I think there's the misconception that has been propagated, where all education good, all vocational bad. And in the UK they have the vocational training that is supposed to be equivalent to university, and it's not perceived as being the same, purely and simply because people downvalue it as a vocational element. So from here, I think we could do a much better job in terms of getting the parents to understand the import of it's all about the child and what their aptitude is. It's all about what direction the child can pursue, what direction is appropriate for the child, and not necessarily all education is good and going to university is essential. It's like if you see someone who's got a talent at golf, swimming, or cricket or football or whatever it might be, and then persuade them they should actually be in banking or accounting because that's not a structured career, and you may not make it because there's only a tiny percentage. Well, if everybody actually operated that way, you'd never have Tiger Woods, you'd never have any of the superstars who've come out of the various games of, Lionel Messi. Where would we be without Lionel Messi? The entertainment he's brought us. Yeah. And so it's a kind of a long way round that I think you have to pay more attention to the child and trust the child.
Yeah. If I might use him, because he knows that I've had him as an example, Glenn Ananga.
Yeah.
He's an engineer.
Yeah.
All right. By training.
Yeah.
But probably one of the most gifted piano players.
Yeah.
Now he organizing concerts worldwide. He performing internationally. I say that to share that somehow we have, still in Cayman, and with respect to any other jurisdiction, I'll ignore them. We tell our students, if you're a great football player, you can't be great academically. Or if you're doing your academics, you can't play sports. Yet we foolishly, at the same time, say, that you need to have good balance, a health of body is a health of mind.
Yeah.
But yet we that's frustrates man.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's if you have a great teacher, you always remember their name and you always remember what they did for you. And of that, you sort of look and you think we need more awareness of what education can give, but it's more about understanding where the child comes from. Look at Richard Branson, who's dyslexic and didn't finish school or didn't finish any formal qualifications. Mm-hmm. He's not done bad for himself. Yeah. And there's a number of people that fall into that category who would turn around and go, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, life is kind of like the Wizard of Oz. So you've got, what did the Scarecrow want? He wanted a brain. And what did they give him? A piece of paper.
Yeah.
And he suddenly thought he was bright.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of paper.
But you see, many times, we look at the lion and we don't see that he lacks courage. And yet when he,
when it comes to it, he's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where I think the Caymanian and the Cayman society has benefited. There's a resilience and a resolve, a tenacity to literally brave the high seas and make an invaluable contribution that has left an indelible mark. What is happening now, I think, is that there are some who choose to exert their, almost it would appear, their level of aggressiveness that displaces many. And when a few push back or stand their ground, instead of being embraced for doing the right thing, they're castigated and openly relegated. Those days are over.
Yeah.
Because if we're not going to band together and unite, the cerebral, Cyril, or whether it's any within the banking sector or otherwise, a country can only improve if people look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about wanting to work together. It's about wanting to improve. It's about wanting to evolve. And I think the country is phenomenal, and it is a question of that journey that is the most exciting thing, and that's why I love being here.
Well, Roger, I always appreciate an opportunity to chat and to learn and to feel inspired and be reminded of how great a space we are, but how much and how important it is to make hay while the sun shines. Maybe not long from now you'll come back. Maybe we'll bring Kiara or others, or we may have someone from Cerebral. We may hear some great things happening.
Would love to.
A year hence is only about 12 months. So.
Exactly. Lovely to see you, Sterling Dwayne. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Have an
Thank you.
Excellent weekend.
And you.
All right, I'm told our guests are ready. We're ready to take the break, and when we come back, we invite you to rejoin us. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what, though, this old girl feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Digicel has teamed up with Capella. We're giving away tickets for you and a friend to attend Cayman's biggest music festival. Win 2 Capella tickets. Simply activate a 30-day Prime Max plan or be an active postpaid customer and you could be our lucky winner. Don't miss out on this epic event. Go to your nearest Digicel store today or the My Digicel app for your chance to win. Digicel. Better connected.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with Valley Med Pharmacy.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Hey there, Cayman. Great news! Our affordable housing survey deadline is now extended through April 19th, and we want to hear from everyone. Caymanians, residents, or here on a work permit, your voice really matters. This is a chance to impact the future of Cayman's housing. Plus, you can win a $100 gift card from sponsors like Cost You Less, North Sound Golf Club, Hurley's, The Ritz-Carlton, and more. Speak up and get involved by visiting cihousingplan.org by April 19th. Don't miss this chance. No matter your background or status, your input will help create a vibrant community where everyone feels at home. Thank you for helping shape Cayman's future. Remember, every voice matters. Go to cihousingplan.org now and let's make a difference together.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us, and thanks to the fantastic communications team over at CUC for reaching out and facilitating and scheduling this discussion with the President CEO, Mr. Richard Hugh, and the VP for Customer Service and Technology, Mr. Sasha Tibbetts. Hope I got that right, Sash. All right, Mr. Hugh, welcome, and how are you today, sir?
Thank you very well, and great to be here with you, Dwayne.
Sasha, I'm thinking, Richard's looking at us going, man, we only had a football now. Why do we have to be there? We could be playing football. Because some may remember we were a pretty good sweeper, huh?
Yeah. That was a few years ago, quite a few years ago.
Don't tell Lee Ramon because he thinks it was yesterday. Yeah. I want to say that to share that I'm still in the frame, speaking to Roger earlier, that many of us, whether it's sports or music or the arts, those are pathways to education, and those are things that help us as we evolve through life. We build community and connectedness. And I'm mindful that, like many businesses and like many places or banks, it's a love-hate relationship. We say some horrible things sometimes. But we live in a community where the provision of electrical services, the notion of that reliability, that connectivity, we have much to be thankful for. I mean, it's pretty effective. Not unlike the football team that needs each player to do its part, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, and looking forward to a discussion. To our listeners, we will not be taking any calls, primarily to give an opportunity for information to be shared in as much of a, flow that allows people to hear and to understand and to appreciate. So, Mr. President, that sounds good, huh? Through you, sir, let's start a discussion, perhaps.
Sure.
Okay. CUC and its operations, I think we go back to 50 years now? 1966.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the math too quickly because that would mean that I'm much older than that.
Yeah. So coming up on 58 years in May.
50 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time, and we've seen great evolution and advancement and adoption of technology. Where is CUC? I mean, what is the company doing? Where is it going? Help us to appreciate as much as you can with the time that we have, so that we don't only have the buy-in, but we have the understanding.
Right. Okay, so if you want to start from way back in 1966,
I was just a young boy.
A little bit of history. So it was the first public utility was attempted by Captain Kofelt, and got into financial difficulties, and the government took it over for a period of time to get it ready for sale to bidders from the public, and a group of American investors who I'm told were part-time residents in the 7 Mile Beach and just wanted reliable electricity, won the bid, and so CUC was started in 1966 as a private company. Back then, so those were the early days of the development of the company, which was focused on just building out the grid. You had in West Bay, for instance, Mr. Stafford, that had some generation, mainly in the districts. It was stores that needed refrigeration, that they would have electricity generation. But the government of the day had the foresight to see that building out a grid throughout the island, bringing electrification to all, would be the lowest cost and most reliable way to serve everyone with electricity. So the grid wasn't completed until they got to East End. I think it was East End and North Side in 1972, so early 70s. And so that kind of concluded the initial phase of developing the electricity industry in Cayman, and then from there we saw that bringing the benefits of electricity, the quality of standard of living, commerce started to explode, and so we had the growth story of the Cayman Islands, and the period from the 70s to the 90s, 2000s was really about developing the grid and generation to support the grid, to keep up with the development and stay ahead of it. In fact, we have to stay ahead of it. So that was sort of the second phase, and thrown in there a bit, we had some grid resiliency to be able to withstand hurricanes. So we started doing things like building indoor substations, concrete poles, some undergrounding. So let's call that second phase the sort of grid development, developing capacity, and also hardening the grid. And now we're going into, we've started, I would dare say, the third and very important phase, which is to continue to strengthen the grid because climate change is driving more frequent and bigger hurricanes, but also very importantly to transition over to renewable energy and reduce our CO2 emissions. And that, fortunately for us in Cayman, brings a reduction in cost of electricity as well.
And with that, as I listen to you, we see how there's a resilience and a resourcefulness in our people. You referenced Mr. Stafford, Mr. Hislop in Georgetown and the like. And the idea that we take things literally into our own hands, try to figure out, we don't wait, we try to get it done. In talking to people, remembering their oral history, there's a reference to the West Indies power Corporation
Yeah.
and the lawsuit in the 60s and the like, and how that plays in. You have any knowledge of that and the like?
No, I don't know of any lawsuit. I know West Indies Power Corp, WIPCO was they bought CUC from the early investors, and so that would have been in the, I think, late 70s, early 80s, and so they carried the company through that period until mid-late 2000s.
And the reason why I recognize, Sasha, that sometimes, we take so much for granted is like if we travel some places, not because the connections and the appliances we have are different, we need a different adapter, but we expect a certain level of service because back in Cayman we have this. And it's not that we're accustomed or spoiled, is that there's this expectation, and yet here we will lament many times power outage and not seeing it. And this third stage of the evolution of embracing alternative energy, other technologies, what does that look like for us? And then, like, I love technology, but don't tell Miss Norma that, because I wanted to believe I don't. Technology must be a great servant. It can't be the master. So how are we, as we embrace the new technology from alternative energies to ensuring that the storage capacity is there? If we got the diesel, we fill the tanks, we pump it into the generators, and down the lines it go, and we turn on our TVs for AC. So we got this other thing. Is it the same thing, just a different thing? Well, what's the thing?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the, just to sort of build off of what Richard's saying, is two of the more important aspects of an electricity supply is reliability, and then perhaps the second one might be cost. And now what we're seeing is becoming perhaps equally important is the environmental impact. And so as we look at embracing environmental impact or improving environmental impact, or perhaps even removing environmental impact, the thought is, how do we do that and make sure we hold on to reliability? Number one, the service that we provide is key to a lot of the industry that's here. A lot of the tourism market, a lot of the financial market is built on top of our reliable service, amongst many other aspects of the economy that are very important. And so we really can't mess with that. But as we try to embrace these environmental impacts, what can we do with the costs? And so, over the last several years, we've been looking at these opportunities, and it really is an exciting thing to look at what we have on our doorstep right now, where we have this opportunity to embrace renewable energy in a way that will meaningfully reduce the cost of electricity. And we're talking about possibly reducing fuel factor by as much as 50% if we do this right. And for anybody, myself included, and Richard pays his bill as well, you look at your bill, the biggest portion for the last, ever since I've had an electricity bill, has been the fuel factor. And it's really the piece that in the past we haven't really had a whole lot of control over. We could manage the fuel efficiency to a certain extent on our engines, but there's limits of physics when you get to that, and we're right on that limit. So it's now, okay, well, what can we do to change technology? And for the last 7-8 years, we've been saying, all right, well, we've got to move very hard onto renewable energy and do that in a very cost-effective way.
Yeah, if I may ask about getting to that stage of lowering the fuel factor, because as you shared, how our bill is separated now, we can see the different charges from the licensing and the renewable charges. If it's okay, when we come back from the break, maybe sort of explain, I know you have other team members that can, but talk specifically about the timelines and the impact, and maybe ask some things. There are different licenses the CUC has. Would that be fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate the education. I ask you to forgive me now, because I love to learn, so I ask many questions. I can see my teachers going, stop talking so much, ask too many questions. Then I go home and ask my parents, they go, well, you go back to school tomorrow, ask more questions. I want to learn. All right, stay tuned. The President and CEO, Mr. Hugh, together with his VP for Customer Service and Technology, Mr. Tibbetts, our guest. Stay tuned.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
You know what I love to do with my family? Go fishing. I can put the bait on and cast and reel the line all by myself. My mommy and daddy say when they were little, there were plenty more fish to catch, but now there are lots more people fishing, so it's harder to find them. That's why we have marine parks now. They set some areas aside so the fish there can have babies and grow bigger. Then they swim out to other areas where I can catch them. Having the marine parks means there will still be fish there when I'm grown up and fishing with a family of my own.
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
All right. Yeah, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks to Mr. Richard Hugh and Mr. Sasha Tibbs, the President and the VP for Customer Service Technology, respectively, for joining us. I like that in the Cayman landscape, despite the relatively small size of us geographically, yes, we are just around numbers, say 100,000 people. That's not even a good football stadium. That's still a small space. But we have leveraged technology. We have great resources and intellect and expertise and experience within the people that are here. Those like us who go back generations, those like us who, we're just about to renew our first work permit. It's so much there. I still have to share that, as Sasha, as you referenced, the financial and the tourism sector is supported and perhaps successful because of the reliability of the electricity generation. During the break, I was asking a couple of things, but maybe some of us aren't appreciative that there is CUC, but CUC is maybe not just one entity, maybe there are multiple licenses, might be different things. Could we get a perspective of what is it and what operates and how it goes?
Okay, yes. So in 2008, there was a change in regulation of the industry. So we got a new independent regulator. So that was one big change. Before, CUC as a licensee reported to the government. So you now had an independent regulator, and another big change was instead of having one license, CUC got two licenses. One is a transmission and distribution license, which governs the how we own and operate the grid, and rates for customers connected to the grid. And then we also got a generation license, which means that we can tie generators to the grid and generate electricity. That generation license is a competitive license. In other words, whenever we need certain size and types of generation, we have to notify the regulator, and the regulator is then charged with conducting a solicitation to get a winning bidder to who wins the right to connect to the grid, sell to CUC as a T&D licensee, transmission and distribution licensee. So we have competition in generation. And so that started in 2008. We had one competitive solicitation so far, which ended in 2014. And CUC won that bid and installed 30 megawatts of generation. We haven't had a competitive bid since completed, but right now the OFREG, the independent regulator, is in the process of conducting a solar plus storage bid.
Okay.
So CUC hopes to participate in that by submitting a bid against other qualified bidders. And I think there are like 6 or 7 other qualified bidders.
Okay. And I think many times we as a people don't always understand, even though we think we do, or we may read something or hear something and be a bit confused or conflicted. So in saying that, there was, in the past, CUC had a quote-unquote a monopoly on it all. 2008, you now have 2 licenses. Is there a monopoly on one of your operations?
Yeah, so on the transmission and distribution, that is a monopoly. It's a natural monopoly because it doesn't make sense to have 2 sets of poles and wires and so on. And it makes more sense to have one grid owner who looks after the reliability and expansion and maintenance of the grid. When it comes to, and I think recognizing that this whole fuel line that was, the dominant cost for consumers, the government of the day wanted to ensure that generation costs were competitive, and that's why they chose to introduce competition. We think we are very competitive in costs. If you look at our costs before the 2008 license and even today, we're very competitive in the region. It's just that small island nature, with relying previously only on diesel, it was relatively expensive if you're comparing us to North America, where you have much larger scale and hydro, nuclear, and previously, there's still a lot of coal-fired plants, but previously, everyone was building coal-fired plants, which were very cheap output, but very harmful to the environment.
Yeah, we see perhaps in the U.S. sometimes some places, or maybe because of some politicians are saying, hey, we should look at that. But even Europe, following the Ukraine war, considering coal again.
Yeah. So, I mean, a utility, saying in North America, could buy from the generation, wholesale generation, at 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Right, so now they only have to get it to the customer. Here, for us in Cayman, that 3 to 4 cents becomes 19 to 20 cents with diesel. So whereas the transmission distribution costs, the rest of the cost to get the electricity to customers, keep the grid stable and reliable, and to bill customers is about the same as it is in North America. But the big difference is that generation costs.
Okay.
And that's why the policymakers of the day wanted to ensure competition in generation to bring the lowest costs to consumers.
And as we go into the break, the idea of generation, there's competition, and when we come back, how does that work? Off-rig decides it's CUC, it's one of the bidders. Does CUC have a say in the ultimate award? Because there may be some perceptions and misconceptions. There may be some things that need further explanation. Could we talk about that?
Sure.
All right. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you sharing with us. I won't pretend to be one of those UK journalists who gets hard talk now, but we're going to get some answers. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
With a look at your latest headlines, I'm Dwayne Ebanks. Corey Diaz entered a guilty plea of possessing 15 rounds of ammunition today in Grand Court. The particulars of the charges say that on the 8th of March, he had 15 rounds of ammunition plus one magazine. The Crown accepted his guilty plea and noted that at sentencing, the charge for possessing a magazine will be dropped, as the magazine recovered by the police was not functional. He will be sentenced on the 31st of May. Belize Police Commissioner Chester Williams has confirmed that a 41-year-old man has been charged with manslaughter by negligence following the death of his wife, who was hit in the head with a conch shell. The police said that Jennifer Lynn Griffith died after being hit by a conch shell during a brawl involving her husband, Maynard Ancona, over last weekend in San Pedro town. They said that the man has not confessed to accidentally killing his wife. Investigators have enough evidence to substantiate the charge. Williams told reporters that the pathologist certified that the lady died from a penetration to the head by a projectile. He noted that he thinks the fragment of the conch shell were also found in her head. Williams said the husband was throwing it indiscriminately and then it caught her, and that led to her death. Trinidad health authorities have confirmed that several babies died at the neonatal intensive care unit of the Port of Spain General Hospital earlier this month as a result of a bacterial outbreak. In a statement on Thursday night, the Northwest Regional Health Authorities said that the deaths occurred during the period of April 4th to the 7th. The NWRHA said that the medical team, recognizing the severity of the situation, immediately initiated infectious disease and control protocols for the treatment of late-onset neonatal sepsis, a condition known for its rapid onset and potentially devastating consequences. That's your latest headlines. I'm Dwayne Ebanks.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Okay. Thanks very much for doing this, and thanks to Mr. Hugh and Mr. Tibbetts. I think many times I say this, and hopefully I do it with the level of respect, but also the appreciation. Any guest who comes there, two things: it's lunchtime. I don't know about you, but I get hungry. Right? So that's the way I feel. But secondly, whatever you're selling, sharing, promoting, or supporting, that's time away from other things that you may have to do or want to do. It's a nice day outside. You might want to go play in the rain. So I really, really appreciate you sharing. The two, executives like yourselves, not only is your time like others valuable, but what you're saying, very instructive and impactful on our community. I'm hopeful that I do it justice both to yourselves, but also to our public. It isn't on a personal level. It isn't to castigate you, to blame you, to offend, to insult. But there are times when we need as individuals to be more responsible, but to be held more accountable. And what is it we're reminded? The pointing fingers at somebody else, how many are pointing back at you? With that in mind, you've talked about the licenses and the generation. There are some who have the perception, CUC tells Offrig what to do, as they did the ERA, and you can't get anything unless CUC tells it, and Now, is that the case? I don't mean to ask that in the wrong way, but I've heard it said many times. So help us, Mr. Hugh.
Yeah, not at all. But before I get on to that, your comment on thanking us for coming in and spending time, I compare the time that we're in now to if you think about a pilot flying a plane, a commercial plane, and it's all smooth and everything. You don't hear from the pilot, but if things start getting bumpy or something's going wrong or we're changing direction suddenly, then the pilot should communicate, you know, to keep the flying passengers calm and everything else.
And informed.
So right now we are going through entering a period, I think, that's going to be a lot of transition to renewables, etc. There are things changing. This bid coming out, etc. We have big goals over the next 5 or 6 years to try and get to 60% reduction in CO2. So we're spending a lot of time getting out to various stakeholders through public forums like this or otherwise to, you know, talk about this transition. Coming to the off-reg, look, there's a law, utility regulation and competition law, and we have licenses. Let me tell you, CUC's objective is to stick to the letter of the law. We're a publicly traded company. We have a lot of obligations for disclosure that most companies don't have on this island, and we take that seriously. We've been operating in this manner for many, many years. We do not control off-reg. We, as the T&D licensee, has to work closely with off-reg and align with the interests of consumers. Our goal is to provide least cost, reliable, and as Sasha mentioned earlier, now low environmental impact electricity to our consumers.
With that in mind, then, if I may then ask, again, this is where sometimes our perceptions, they may be ill-conceived, ill-informed, ill-timed, but that aside, in the Cayman context, you don't need to go too far, whether it's the bar stool or the church pew. You hear conversations about your CUC bill. Oh, that's more than my mortgage. It's not a mortgage, it's a loan. But that's a different story. With that in mind, the notion that you know, CUC has the monopoly on one aspect of its license, and then there's competition for generation. Some of allege, and respectful of ask if this is something you've heard, and if so, how do you respond? That a presentation is made to off-reg. We want to generate some power through some way, but somehow CUC is informed of it, or has to give us a blessing or its approval, or they get involved. But then CUC is also a potential competitor for that generation as well. Is that something that has happened, potentially could happen?
I'm not sure what
okay,
your question is.
Yeah.
I can take a stab at
it.
I think I'm understanding what you're getting at. If somebody wants to generate electricity, they might go to off-reg, and off-reg might say, well, you got to cut a deal with CUC. And there's a lot of elements of facts there, but the piece that's really missing is we don't issue generation licenses.
Right.
That's the purview of off-reg. We have the ability to recommend renewable energy projects to off-reg. On the same time, off-reg has stated, and rightfully so, that renewable energy expansions are to be competitively tendered by them. So oftentimes we hear of projects for renewable energy, and we have plans of our own in that space as well. And so when somebody comes to us with a renewable energy project, we can listen and so on, but we really don't have much authority to do anything with it other than to refer them back to off-reg and ask them how they're going to get a generation license. So it is a bit of a lack of process at this point that is perhaps slowing the market down. I know we certainly would have liked to have proceeded with our first plant probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and that process development has been holding us back. And I suspect others are feeling the same frustration, but it's certainly not generated on our end. And you know, what we would like to see is that this fair competitive market is created, so that all players can bring the best value for our customers.
Thanks.
So it's I wanted to touch on the what happens in competition. Let's say someone else wins the bid, then they are going to be selling electricity to CUC as a T&D licensee. So we're going to buy that electricity and pass the costs on to consumers, just as we buy fuel now,
right,
and pass the fuel costs on. With solar, it's going to be significantly lower costs. So that's why we're excited about it. We have that in operation right now. So the Boddentown Solar Farm, which is a 5 megawatt solar farm that is today producing at the lowest cost to the grid. We have a power purchase agreement with them, which outlines what they sell us, how much they sell us, their reliability standards, our obligations to take the power from them. And, we brought them into the mix by conducting our own solicitation before Ofreg did. So not shortly after we got the competitive license in generation, we knew that we were busy ourselves trying to deal with expansion of the diesel plant, and we felt that we wanted to get some solar on the grid. We approached Ofreg and said we're going to solicit utility scale solar. In fact, it was renewables in general. I think we had a wind proposal as well, but the winning bidder was this 5 megawatt solar farm. So once we negotiated and came to agreement with the owners of that solar farm on the power purchase agreement, the terms of the commercial and technical arrangement between us, we presented that to Ofreg and said, we think this is a good deal. And Ofreg agreed, and hence we now have a utility scale solar farm.
Okay.
So that has, by us running the bid, we guaranteed competitive pricing for our customers.
Okay.
In this case, Ofreg is running the bid, we are able to participate because they are running the bid, and so we can be sort of independent of that bid process. So there are different ways of ensuring that we have a competitive process to get the best pricing of the day for customers who are connected to the grid.
Okay. I mean, there's much, even that Boddentown solar farm that could be asked, but in the interest of time and with that, I may revisit it. But for now, looking at the grid and the idea of the renewable energy, some of as Shasha just shared, it's been a time lag. What is perhaps some of the things that have delayed, taken so long to get more renewable on the grid?
So I think Sasha alluded to it. It's a new process for Ofreg. In 2008 when we signed the license, we threw some things in there. We thought solar was coming into being practical and low cost and so on, but it wasn't there yet. We envisaged that it would get there, and so we put some things in our license around renewables and promoting renewables, but really it was not properly fleshed out at the time. So these are new processes for Ofreg and even for us, which is kind of why we thought that we had the right to put a bid in on our own unsolicited bid to Ofreg, and they disagreed. No problem, fine. It wasn't clear in our license. We thought the license promoted renewables, so we saw a good opportunity to reduce the cost of electricity for customers, so we put in the proposal, and they didn't agree. So now we have this bid process they're running through, and it's taken them some time to develop that.
They being Ofreg?
Being Ofreg,
okay.
Yeah, in the past. And then we also 2 years ago saw a shift in government policy, or an intended shift in government policy announced by the then Premier, who said that the government was going to take over utility scale solar. So in that case, there wouldn't be a competitive bid. And I think that was sort of upheld for about a year. And then a year ago, Ofreg announced that they were continuing with their process. So they had started a process. It was was halted or delayed while they examined a shift in policy. And a year ago, they decided to continue with the competitive bid. So now I think we're getting very close.
So I think the one piece that if there's a takeaway, I think what's interesting is when you talk to all parties, and there's a wide range of them, and the one thing that we all have in common is we want renewable energy, right? And so we really have to hold on to that. But the biggest part of the delay is a divergence on how we do that. And I think the interested parties in that space really do need to come together, the government, off-reg, industry partners, ourselves, and let's figure out a way, because there's no lack of desire to get it done. We got to make sure we get the environmental benefit. We got to make sure we get the cost reduction for consumers, all consumers across the entire island, and we got to keep the reliability in place. And that's not that hard to do, but it seems like it's been very hard on getting people to agree to say, yes, let's do it.
So we're committed to this 60% reduction in CO2 emissions and committed to reducing the cost of electricity. The plan that we had in our integrated resource plan that we did in 2017, and what we're now seeing going forward over the next 5 or 6 years, we probably need 400 to 500 megawatts of solar to do that. We don't want to do it all. It's probably practically impossible for us to do it all, but what we want to ensure is that we have reputable, good providers who are going to be competitive in their costs, because this is a once in a lifetime, certainly for me, opportunity to switch from high cost and sort of not unstable price diesel to low cost, stable price, almost fixed price
with the solar. Okay.
But if we move in another direction where we pick some high costs and then we're stuck with that again, and forevermore people will be looking, if it's CUC as a T&D licensee, they'll be looking at me again every time you're in public and saying, why is your electricity so expensive? So
you can't
we're aligned today. I know the government is looking at cost of living, and everyone is concerned. I mean, we see the inflation, certainly in our industry. A lot of our major components are, doubling in price. So there is a cost concern, and we have this opportunity to take costs out of that fuel factor, and we need to work together to get that done.
What is CUC's sort of demand, in terms of megawatts? Like,
our peak last summer was just about 125 megawatts.
Right. And if I heard you correctly, you said we need in solar 400 to 500 megawatts. Our peak demand is, let's say, 20% of that.
Yeah.
As we go to the break,
how does that work?
Yeah.
Well, because to cover the period when the sun isn't up, you need to build additional capacity to charge batteries, to discharge the batteries when the sun is set.
Okay.
So that's why you get that really big number. And out of every 100 megawatts of solar, because the sun doesn't shine 24 hours and it isn't even at the optimal location for generation for many hours. So for every 100 megawatts, you're getting on average probably 22 megawatts out of that.
So the efficiency of the solar panels.
On a 24-hour basis.
On a 24-hour basis. So you need 4 to 5 times what a diesel engine would have in capacity to serve your customers.
As we go into the break, this would make sense why they plan to go to the sun at night. It's not shining. If you didn't get that joke, ask Susan. Or we come back to continue our discussion. Stay tuned.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Digicel has teamed up with Capella. We're giving away tickets for you and a friend to attend Cayman's biggest music festival. Win 2 Capella tickets. Simply activate a 30-day Prime Max plan or be an active postpaid customer and you could be our lucky winner. Don't miss out on this epic event. Go to your nearest Digicel store today or the My Digicel app for your chance to win. Digicel. Better connected. Hey Bobo, have you taken the pledge?
What pledge?
The Safe Drivers Pledge, to show your dedication to fostering a culture of responsible driving. Some of the accidents we have in Cayman could have been avoided simply by drivers being more vigilant behind the wheel.
You're right, Our actions behind the wheel can have serious consequences. Everyone should make a commitment to drive safely. Where can I take the pledge?
Visit gov.ky/road safety/pledge.
Thanks. I'll tell others to take the pledge too.
Let's make our roads safer together and say no more for 2024. Visit www.gov.ky/road safety for more information and to take the pledge.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks to Mr. Richard Hugh, the President and CEO of CUC, and his colleague, the VP, for making sure customer service and technology. They go hand in hand, Mr. Sasha Tibbetts. With great deference, Mr. Hugh, as I look at your organizational structure, you have a great team of young professionals. It will make you look at retirement very imminently and say, you know what, I leave the company in great hands. So succession planning, for what it's worth, your investment in your human capital, paying dividends. So thanks for that. Those scholarships from A level to university to all the other training bodes well for.
We believe strongly in developing Caymanians.
Yeah.
Caymanians have the talent, the ability to grow in their chosen fields, and we've seen that demonstrated that at CUC.
You've provided the opportunity. You've funded the studies, and our students, as expected, have not just attained the grade but have excelled. I don't want to embarrass you, Mr. Tibbetts, but you make more than your parents proud, so thank you, sir.
Yeah. We have Mr. Tibbetts, we have Ms. Letitia Lawrence, our CFO.
Yes.
We previously had David Watler, who was in charge of generation, who today is in charge of a fleet of generation. I think it's approaching 1.5 gigawatts, so 1,500 megawatts of solar farms in the state of Florida.
Yep.
So Caymanians can do the job. They just need the opportunity.
I think of another young fellow, a good family on the eastern side, likewise, right? So we have that from the days of Mr. Cole to others. I only share that to ask, again, with the discussion with Roger earlier, for people to look at opportunities from engineering to accounting, from finance to legal, but also the sense of the regulatory aspect. And as your schedule allows and as you wish, come back on, collectively, separately, with others, so that we have that buy-in, both the shares that we can buy in a stock exchange to the notion of what we do. We talked about solar, and I wanted to ask. We drive around, we see parking lots covered with solar panels, shades the cars, it provides energy. We see rooftops here and other places. We hear people talking about potential for, solar along the roadside to generate. So this idea of rooftop solar and utility scale solar, are they one and the same? If not, are they different? And if they're different, how so? Because there are a lot of words we batted about, but I don't think we always understand what it means. Solar is solar. Is it not solar?
Yeah, no, it's the same technology, but it's smaller scale for the rooftop and car parks. And that you mentioned that is the only category right now that's not competitively bid. So going back quite a few years ago, the CUC, the regulator, policymakers agreed that to get this technology, to employ it on Ireland, they would look at buying the electricity from rooftop solar outside of a competitive process. And that what we did was estimated the true cost of producing from rooftop solar or car park solar. And we, CUC, then guaranteed that we would buy from those producers for 20 years at that cost, their cost to produce, which it started out at 38 cents. But we made sure that there was a limited capacity because you didn't want to buy all of your electricity at 38 cents or, customers would feel the pinch. And as the cost of the technology came down over the years, we, along with Off-Reg, brought the cost, the rate paid to these producers down in line with the cost of the technology. So the last offer was 15 cents for 10 kilowatt solar because it's a bigger than the smaller units of 5 kilowatts, which is 17 cents a kilowatt hour. So the difference is, getting back to your question, is the technology is similar, but you can be a lot more efficient with large dedicated solar farms rather than putting solar panels on the roof. And so if we want to really drive the cost down, the utility scale is the one to go to. We, at the same time, recognize that there are a lot of customers who would like to generate electricity, and our position is only that their generation of electricity should not significantly impact the cost of the others who are not generating and are having to buy the electricity off of those who are generating.
And the one thing I will add, Richard didn't mention the cost difference between the rooftop solar is 17 cents presently. I believe in a competitive market it can probably get a little bit lower. But also the cost for utility scale solar, we're seeing from our estimation is far less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So there's a material, 10 to 15 is a material step, but when you look at 10 to where we are with diesel, which is 19, is a huge step. And that really is the golden opportunity that Richard's talking about is like, look, we really do need that when we make this switch, we need to be choosing and prioritizing the lowest cost options. And then for the options that bring the environmental benefit, but perhaps maybe aren't the lowest cost, let's work on what the costs actually are and bring them down as well.
Can I read these as they come in? Sure. So CUC, unfortunately, CUC sets, the rules. So who do you think would win the bids? This one says, why do you think CUC is installing battery banks now at our expense? Listeners' perceptions?
Well, that's incorrect perceptions.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
And there are people,
one of them.
People putting misinformation out there. Clearly, in the regulatory framework we have, CUC is going to have to buy electricity from the independent power producers, the utility scale solars that we don't own. I already covered how that's done through a power purchase agreement. You have to have some kind of contract between buyer and seller, CUC being the buyer and the IP independent power producer being the seller. That's called in our industry a power purchase agreement. We develop a draft power purchase agreement that CUC would be happy to enter into with a potential winner who is of the bid who is not CUC.
That does not have a price in it, though.
doesn't have a price.
It's just the structure of agreement.
Yeah. So we give that to Offreg, and our license says that we must do this. We give that to Offreg, who is doing all the other documents on how they want to conduct the bid. But that draft power purchase agreement is an appendix to the bid documents.
Mm-hmm.
And the bidders need that because they cannot bid on something that they don't know what the final contract is going to look like roughly. And the winning bidder will then negotiate with CUC on that power purchase agreement if CUC is not the winner. But we don't want, I can tell you, we don't want to tilt the playing field in our advantage. We want a fair and transparent bid process. And we will 100% accept if we're beaten by someone else, hands down.
This is for
generation. We still get the benefit if someone else wins and they can do it at lower cost than us. We get the benefit of passing those lower costs through to our consumers, which will drive our industry, our economy, and most of all, drive costs down for our customers.
If I dare may ask, just for our listeners who may be joining, CUC has a monopoly on the transmission and distribution.
Yeah.
There is a competition for the generation. X company can come on board. They can use a particular technology. If it's approved by Offreg, you have a proper power purchase agreement with them. They sell it to you. It comes onto the grid, whether that's a solar scale farm or some other technology.
Mm-hmm.
Now, CUC can also compete for generation as well.
Mm-hmm.
They could partner with somebody. They could say, listen, we're going to employ some mechanism and we're going to generate it. That works as well.
Yeah. And Offreg would look at all of those bids and make a selection on behalf of the consumer as to which one it thinks is best. And price will play a big part, but it's also they're going to look at the reputability of the company, the environmental impacts, and so on.
And this is where I on a personal level, understand and accept the importance of legislation, regulation, and competition. But there will be some who say, well, wait a minute, CUC is also a potential bidder for generation, as it is the monopoly for transmission and distribution.
Mm-hmm.
In it, just by the sheer nature of competition, if I can borrow your words, Mr. Hugh, if they can, companies and jurisdictions may tilt in the playing field in their favor. Not saying that's what you're doing on the agent. Some would say, well, why wouldn't it? I mean, I have a competitive advantage.
But we don't.
No, not saying you do.
Yeah. Right? No, what I'm saying is that the process is run by Offreg.
Right.
We do not have any control.
So it's a challenge then that Offreg, as many regulators are alleged, sometimes they don't have the competence, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the time, they don't have the insight, they don't have the expertise, they don't have all these things to appreciate. And this is a new landscape for us, right? We're talking 2009.
I think they do have the capabilities, and I know that they're working, or in the past they have worked with professionals to help them through this, and I suspect that that's probably what they're doing now as well. And we do the same thing when we run a tender for a project. We'll get outside help because it's not. Usually, it's the kind of thing you don't do every year.
Right.
But these are big projects, and usually you want consulting engineers, consulting lawyers, and so on to get involved and make sure that it's done in a proper way.
Can we ask, Mr. Hugh? Sorry, I will ask. Can we ask two other questions? And thank you for it. And again, the invitation is there. One is about the battery bank that you're doing.
So the battery, that was thanks for bringing it up. I was trying to remember what the other part of your question was.
I want to ask that first, but
yeah. So the battery is 100% great for everyone. It's great for the rooftop solar people because it will bring more stability to the grid, which will allow us to take more of the intermittent solar, which can cause grid stability issues. So once that battery is on, we get to say, okay, there's more rooftop that we can take. It also drives cost reductions because the battery acts as a spinning reserve, we call it. So right now we're having to run an additional 25 megawatts on our grid over and above what we need at any time to supply all of our customers. So we're running an additional 25 megawatt. so that if one generator comes offline, or if all the solar, sometimes they can drop offline quickly with the cloud cover, that we are able to continue to supply reliably to our customers. So that extra
online backup.
Yeah, that extra 25 megawatts that we're having to run, that burns fuel, which is expensive today. The battery, once it comes online, is going to eliminate that additional 25 megawatts. And we'll be able to provide that online backup with the battery. So it's going to save, we estimate, at least $5 million in fuel costs, which goes straight to the consumer in the fuel factor, those savings.
Yeah. How big is that battery bank? I mean, I know it's been published, but just for people to be reminded.
Yeah, so in physical size, it's about 20 or so shipping containers. In megawatts, it's 20 megawatts.
Yeah. And then
it doesn't take up a whole lot of space.
Yeah. How long, before this becomes operational? And then to Sasha's point initially, we get into that space where we're going to have 50% reduction. So two parts. How long before that battery comes up? How long before we get to that 50% reduction in fuel costs?
Okay, the battery comes on in June. I think we're targeting June now. It's pretty much installed. They're doing the...
I'm going to try and beat that deadline.
Yeah.
I know you will. I think it's competition. Tomorrow, he says.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But the costs, to get to the 50% reduction in fuel factor, we need 3 or 4 utility scale solar projects.
Okay.
So that's why we're saying if we can get those, if everyone can get aligned, we can get those done over the next 5 years, we will see a significant drop.
So
in
5 years,
$30 million a year of fuel savings.
So between now and 5 years.
And we also have to help, we're looking at bringing natural gas to replace diesel as a fuel for the engines, and that will bring cost savings as well as price stability as well.
Yeah. But natural gas is not renewable, right?
No.
It's not renewable, but it's cleaner than diesel and lower cost than diesel.
Yeah.
So we're not looking to grow natural gas, like to use it to meet future demand. We're looking at it merely to replace the diesel we're burning today, which is actually going to fall off as well, because as the solar grows, we're going to burn less diesel and less.
Is it
natural
safer
gas.
than diesel? In terms of combustible
I
and...
don't think there's a difference. I mean, it's two very mature industries.
You have to you have different safety precautions with anything that you work with. Is gas more combustible? I mean,
in certain conditions.
In certain conditions than diesel, yeah.
And diesel, now we know, is that pipeline coming to your plants. Natural gas would be the same thing?
That would be a solution, a pipeline, so storage somewhere on the coast, or they are also containerized solutions. So you would have a roll-on, roll-off type operation where you pull containers up to the plant.
Bring the containers there to our area.
Yeah. I mean,
So we're hoping to proceed with at least getting proposals.
Yeah.
We have gone through the phase of qualifying bidders, and we're looking forward certainly in the summer sometime to have proposals in from potential bidders. If it works for us, it works. If it doesn't work, then we go back to the drawing board.
And
but we believe we wouldn't waste time with it if we didn't think the technology could do good for Grand Cayman.
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful, and this won't be my final comment, but just share that as consumers, to be informed, to be willing to question, but do so from a perspective of asking questions, seeking answers consciously, not to be disparaging. With that, you alluded to coal and other things. Are there any technologies, you talked about hydro, I'll even throw in OTEC and others. Are there any technologies now that are probably not viable? I mean, maybe a hydro plant may work, I don't know.
You need mountains. Bigger than the ones that we have.
Yeah, I know people laugh. That's my second joke for today. But are there any technologies that would not be sensible, viable, financial, economically, socially, environmentally for Cayman?
Yeah, well, size rules out some technology. I think we're talking about different scales. So even the small nuclear, which is, I think the world is looking now at, how do we get to the final 30%? Because a lot of nations have a 100% target for renewable, but we still need something that's reliable, which is going to take us through the night and also able to feed the grid after a week of cloud cover when there's no solar and the batteries have all discharged. And that last 30% is what the world is grappling with still. And so there's the nuclear is carbon, does not emit carbon, so there's a renewed interest in nuclear, but some are saying not the huge 1 gigawatt, 1,000 megawatt plant, but maybe something smaller around 100, 200 megawatts. But even that would be too big for us. And so we are watching that space also. If they can get down to 20, 30 megawatts, it may come into play for us, because we still don't know what's going to fill that last 30%.
Yeah.
Other technologies, there's hydrogen as well, which is being developed. We know that our engine manufacturers are already testing a blend of hydrogen and natural gas, or hydrogen and diesel in their engines. So to the extent that that could be a fuel, a renewable fuel in the future, we're looking at that as well. OTEC shows potential, but has not been developed on a commercial level, so it's experimental.
Yeah.
And I don't know, other things that...
I mean, there's a whole lot. The list of inappropriate things is much longer than the list of options that we do have on the table. The biggest options that are in the renewable energy space on the table is obviously solar. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah.
Wind is a good option from a cost standpoint. I think there's some permitting or maybe even perhaps environmental challenges that we would have to overcome. But in terms of that's pretty much what sits as the obvious economic. There's a lot of things that are technically viable, but when you couple in, remember, cost, reliability, those are the two primary things on an energy supply. And now the third leg, which has grown, is the environmental impact as well, which is really good to see that leg is there and is getting support. I think in the past it was a challenge because the environmental benefit was a huge cost, and now it is the least cost solution, which is great. So that really does, and our size really does limit the options that we have available.
Well, I really appreciate it, and honestly say that, with the intent of extending it, again, genuine invitation to come back on. But like anyone, we're not just trying to save money for our future. We want to live now, but we also want to ensure that what we're doing, most of us grew up with parents and in respect to our fathers, especially, who say, save for a rainy day, you're protecting the environment, you make provision. They were mindful of the resources, from how much conquering obviously you took to the fact that you didn't take it, to the way you treated the groundwater. It's no different on a small scale as it is on a societal impact. Mr. Hugh, any final thoughts you may want to leave with our listeners, sir?
Yeah, I think, we are, as I mentioned earlier, over the next 4 to 5 years, I hope we are successful in making this renewable energy transition. It's going to take alignment from a lot of parties, the policymakers given, clear policy direction to off-reg. It's going to take us assisting as well as the T&D licensee. And it's going to take, other providers also. I suspect that, we'll have some solar farms out there. I don't think we are going to be everything, and I think there are a lot of concerns from potential competitors. And so I think that's where a lot of the noise is coming from. But we are going to continue to try and serve Grand Cayman to the best of our ability, fairly, honestly, with high integrity into the future. That's who we are, and that's what we stand for.
It's a Friday now. I almost make a joke. On a Friday, I attempt to joke to say, hey, we got an election in a year time, so we have a new government, but I won't do that. So tips to you, sir. I think we have great confidence in you and your team, and you will, like you said, not only deliver prior to June, but when you do deliver it, it'll be something that is reliable, is consistent, it's going to provide economic and environmental benefits to you. So thanks very much, sir.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that project, and like Richard said, we've got very few goals ahead of us, but they're very simple. We're looking to reduce fuel factor, about 50% is on the table, and we're looking to reduce CO2 impact by as much as 60% in the next 5-6 years. So they're very simple goals. They're generally going to bring a lot of benefit to the country, and that's what we're focused on, that and pretty much only that.
So and to be clear, we don't have to wait 5 or 6 years to see benefits. It's going to be
it won't be one.
See the cost coming down over the next 5 or 6 years. But if we're successful at the end of the 5-6 year period, we should see that fuel factor in half. And I don't know any other industry that can promise cost reductions.
So a quick mathematical calculation: 50% reduction in fuel factor, inflation rate of 3.5% over the next 5 years. We'll only see a CPI of probably cost of living at 4%. The inflation rate, that's kidding, Mr. He's like, is that right?
You're thinking 4% CPI for the next 5-6 years?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. Your crystal ball's
3.
interesting.
Well, everybody's focused on getting it down to 2.5%.
Yeah.
So
and inflation rates are artificially high with interest rates. It's going to be interesting to see. That's really the societal will. Sorry, Ms. Susan, she's giving me a spank on the wrist. Gents, thank you very much. I hope I didn't, bombard you too much. I wasn't too disrespectful. I'll buy you a glass of water on the way out. If you want.
Thank you for having us, and we commit to coming back on regular intervals to keep the listening audience apprised of where we are in this energy transition.
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks to Ms. Susan. I think we recognize that your discussion is not any less important than if our parliamentarians were talking about policy and legislation and the like. This affects us all in a very material way. Looking forward to future discussions. I have the greatest respect for your team, from those who collect our payments, and especially those who are on the lines. I ask the country to pray for them daily, man, because their jobs, they make it look easy, but it's a charged environment. No pun intended, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And to our listeners, please join me start on Monday morning. I got something scheduled for you, but you know what? They may materialize. You won't know until Monday. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman.